I own and operate an animal shelter in a small town. I've always wanted to run a nonprofit organization, so it was a dream come true when I was able to combine that with my love of animals. I established my shelter in my relatively small town a year ago, and honestly, so far, it's been going great. I have a staff of 5 people now, and we take care of around 25 rescue animals. While we mostly have dogs and cats as our rescue animals, we also take care of a rabbit and 2 small ducklings. We rescue animals from the streets and rehabilitate them and then try our best to provide them with a loving home. However, because I live in a small town, there aren't that many people who are able and willing to properly care for a rescue animal. That is why I have tried my best to create a safe and loving space for the animals, as most of them will stay with us at the shelter until they die. In order to allow the animals some time to socialize with people other than those of us that work there, we hold a visiting day every Sunday so that people can come and play with the animals. When I was building the shelter, I knew that I wanted a lot of open space for the animals to run around in, so I had bought a larger piece of land. So we hold the visiting day in the shelter's large fence yard. We always have staff members supervising the interactions, and we don't allow people to meet animals that aren't comfortable around strangers yet. So a month ago, when we were holding our visiting day, we had a group of kids come to meet the animals with their parents. Obviously, kids get excited very easily, so we make sure to tell them to be very gentle with the animals. Now, one of the kids was playing with Zoe, who is a 5-year-old husky, and one of our staff members was watching over them. However, suddenly there was a commotion and a woman had started shouting. Our staff member had spoken to the child and told him not to be rough with Zoe, and he had agreed. Our staff member had only turned around to answer another child's question, and when she turned around, she saw the boy climbing on Zoe and trying to ride her. He was clutching her ears and she was growling because it was hurting her. Before our staff member could get him off of Zoe, she had reared back and thrown him off her. While he wasn't hurt, the kid did start crying. This is when his mother started screaming. She was shouting that she would sue us and that our beast needed to be put down. I told the staff to cut the day short and take all the animals inside so that we could sort everything out calmly. After all the animals were safe inside the shelter, I went to the woman to apologize for the situation, even though Zoe was not at fault. The woman was still ranting about how she was terrified and how she didn't think that the shelter should be allowed to run anymore because we weren't capable of handling the savages that we were keeping. The kid was actually smiling and playing with his friends. He didn't seem to be having any lasting impact from the whole incident. I went over and told the woman that we were sorry for the unfortunate situation and that we regret how everything played out. She just said that she didn't think that I was capable of running my own organization and that my animals were clearly untamed and that they should be taken away from me. I was losing my patience with her, so I told her that she had no right to insult the way that I ran the shelter because none of this would have happened if she had taught her son to follow instructions. The woman got very mad and started screaming that she was going to get my shelter shut down unless I had Zoe put down. I had found Zoe as a starving dog on the side of the road a year ago. She had no flesh on her and she was covered in fleas. She was actually the first animal that I had rescued for the shelter. I brought her here and bathed her and fed her. I had taken her to the vet and gotten all of her shots done. She had been very traumatized and was very scared when she first got to the shelter. It had taken her a long time to trust that I wouldn't hurt her and that she was finally safe. She was now comfortable with strangers and would run to them to be pet, so I was very upset that this woman was asking for her to be put down for such a small incident. I asked her if she thought that her son deserved some punishment because none of this would have ever happened if he hadn't tried to ride her. She started saying that her son hadn't done anything wrong. She also said that her son wasn't trying to ride her and that Zoe just went mad and knocked him to the ground. I was shocked that she was lying so blatantly. Fortunately, the other parents defended Zoe. They said that the boy had gotten on top of her, grabbed her by the ears, and they also said that Zoe had growled in warning to let her go before she pushed him off her. The woman was angry that her own friends weren't on her side, so she said that she didn't care and that she would sue me and the shelter. We are always very clear with our guests that they are responsible for any harm that occurs if they refuse to follow our instructions. All the visitors have to sign into a visitor sheet that mentions this very clearly. When I reminded her of this, She didn't have a comeback, so she just decided to leave with her son, but before she left, she told me that this was not over. The worst part was the way that she was dragging her son to the car. She was pulling him very harshly, and he kept telling her to let go. I didn't pay much attention to her threat. I saw the rest of the visitors off, and then I went inside the shelter to make sure that Zoe was all right. She did seem a bit subdued, but after I sat with her and pet her for some time, she got her energy back. I spent the rest of the day with the animals and had pretty much put the whole incident out of my mind. A couple of days later, I got a call from one of the staff members that I had to go to the shelter right away. I lived very close to the shelter, so I just ran all the way there. When I arrived, I saw the same woman from a few days ago standing beside two moving vans. She was arguing with one of my workers and waving a piece of paper in their face. I went up to them and asked them what was going on. When she saw me, the woman got an evil smirk on her face. She said that she had got a permit to take all of our animals away. I was shocked and I refused to believe her. She handed the piece of paper she was waving to me. It looked like a city permit that said that she was allowed to take away all of our animals on the ground of incompetence. It was written on the city office's official paper, and it had the city clerk's official stamp on it. After I'd read the document, she started laughing and saying that she was going to take all of our animals away and then sell them for a large profit. She also said that she was going to make sure that Zoe was put down. The moving vans were filled with small cages for the animals. The cages were so small that many of the animals would barely fit inside them. It would actually hurt the animals to be put inside of the cages. She told the men that she had brought with her to start collecting the animals, but I stopped her and told her that I was going to call my lawyer first. I went inside and called my business lawyer, who said that she would get to the shelter right away. I also called my father to inform him of what happened. When my lawyer got to the shelter, she asked for the document from the city office. The woman was looking a little nervous when she handed it over. My lawyer went over the document once and decided that there was no way that the city office would ever issue such a permit. She told us that she knew the city clerk personally and that she would just confirm the document with him. When she heard this, the woman tried to snatch the document back from my lawyer but failed. She started shouting that I should have just let her take the animals and not get my lawyer involved. She was forced to admit that she had forged the document and stolen the official paper and stamp from the city clerk's office. I told her to get off of my property and never come back. However, she still refused to let the incident go. She said that I may have gotten away with it this time, but that she would make sure that my animals were taken away from me. I realized then that she wasn't going to let it go, and that I would have to take the next step to make sure that she would never be able to do something like that again. I called my father again, and I set the plan in motion. It took 3 weeks to get everything in order. In that time, the woman tried multiple times to harm the shelter. She even sent her sister to try to adopt Zoe, but we run very thorough background checks and lifestyle checks before we let someone adopt one of our animals. Once we found out that she was the woman's sister, we knew that she only wanted to adopt Zoe so that her sister could have him put down. So we refused and banned her from the shelter. After everything was settled, my lawyer served that woman with court papers. It was easy to write up a court case against her as we had proof that that woman had stolen and forged a government document. At the court hearing, the woman tried to deny it, but our shelters are equipped with the best video cameras, and that had captured the whole incident, including the part where she admitted that she had committed the crime. When she realized that there was no way that she could win the case, she just decided to go to the judge and try to bribe him into letting her get away with it. What she didn't realize is that the judge is actually my father. He guided us on how to build the case against her, and now that he had proof of her trying to bribe the judge, he could give her a harsher punishment. In the end, the woman was sentenced to spend 1 week in the lockup and also paid $20,000 as a fine to the government, as well as $2,500 to the shelter for trying to harm our organization, and that is how I got my revenge. In my senior year of high school, I generally arrived to school, 20 to 30 minutes early and park in the same spot. My friend would park next to me and we'd chat before we'd go to class. A very pretty, popular girl often parked close to us. I'll call her Becky. And though we had plenty of friends, we never interacted with Becky, which was fine. The school had around 2,000 or so students, and she was part of a different crowd. One day, Becky parked next to me and hurried off to class. After a minute, I noticed that her car's headlights were still on. I mentioned it to my friend, and after some discussion, I said that I was going to find and tell Becky about her lights. My friend joked that I better not or my girlfriend might get jealous. I walked into the school and saw Becky across the quad sitting next to her friends and reading a textbook. I approached her and tried to get her attention, but she seemed determined to ignore me. Finally, I said, "Hi, Becky, Becky cut me off. "I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone, creep." At this point, all of her friends had stopped talking and were staring at me. I felt uncomfortable, but I took a deep breath and I said, "Sorry, I just noticed that you left your car headlights on and I thought that you should know." She scoffed at me and said, "What are you, stalking me?" I said no and then quickly walked away. Over the next week, I told everyone that parked near us what had happened, and everyone agreed that Becky had been ridiculous. About a month later, Becky left her lights on again. Instead of telling her, I went around to everyone else, hanging out in their cars, and convinced them that telling her wasn't worth the trouble. That afternoon, after school ended, Becky was going from car to car asking if anyone had jumper cables to help her start her dead car. Though most of my friends kept jumper cables, we all politely declined to help her. My very first job that wasn't for a friend or family member lasted less than 72 hours. It was a Midwestern burrito chain, the place that they bob your burrito at. It was my first closing shift ever, which meant 3 a.m. as we were a college town and it was a Saturday. We are literally under the 3-minute mark to close, and most of the steak is gone. The cook has gone back to get a start on dishes, and the manager and team lead are nowhere to be found. It's me doing my first closing shift. The cook, pretty sure he was an alcoholic in his 50s, still working minimum wage, and the cashier chick, a girl I knew from high school, and was a super senior hippie chick. In walks 3 Chads and 2 Karens, drunk. Chad number 1, steak burrito. Karen 1, veggie rice bowl. So on until Chad 3 asked for a steak burrito as well. Cashier chick already used the last of the steak for burrito 1. She apologized and informed him that we are out of steak and offered a replacement. Chad 3 was having none of it and started whining for a manager, a discount, and for extra steak. You know, the steak that Chad was munching down on. In fact, Chad 1 even said that it was bullcrap that we didn't cook more steak for them while munching on the last of the steak. It's 10 minutes after closing and the cook walks out of the back as he had just finished all the dishes and tools. I know, it was exactly 3:10 a.m. when he left because the CCTV video I was forced to watch as I was getting fired the next day. Anyway, he eventually went with chicken and all 5 of them left to wait for a taxi. Yes, this was before Uber. We finished cleaning and I'm heading to the doors to lock them, and then Chad 3 walks back in saying that he had to use the restroom. I followed him back to the restroom because I'll have to clean it again after he uses it. The district manager was known to watch the cameras, have the manager rip into us if the last time someone left the bathroom wasn't the person cleaning. As he walks out, he smiles at me and says, "Good luck." I poke my head into the bathroom and it's destroyed. He had thrown his burrito against the ceiling, urinated everywhere, and ripped off the towel dispenser, broke the changing table, and plugged the toilet. I just snapped. I drove the mop and charged over to Chad 3, burst in front of him, and locked the door. I lost my crap and started screaming at him and herding him back into the bathroom. Many threats of violence and calling the police at the same time. I still never touched him, though. I made Chad 3 clean the bathroom, though he didn't do a great job, and then I let him out. The taxi van picks them up and they leave. I finished cleaning the dining before heading back to the bathroom to fix and clean what I could, what Chad 3 missed. When I come out, there's 2 police officers knocking on the door. I unlock and open the doors. The policeman comes in and they start to question me about the night's events. I explain what happened and show them the bathroom with the burrito on the ceiling and broken items. They asked if I threatened the man. I refused to answer directly and talked about the mess and damage. They asked to speak to a manager and I exploded. I said, "I'm the last one here and I can't even lock the door or set the alarm, that I haven't seen my team lead or manager since shortly after I got here at 8:30 p.m. and then asked if I could just go home slightly out of breath and clearly frustrated. To my surprise, they said yes. that they would get in touch with the manager or owner and gave me his card. I went home and went to sleep looking forward to my day off to catch up on college homework. Yes, I didn't get a job until college, I know. Shame on me for that. Nope. Next day, I'm woken up by my phone and it's the district manager demanding that I go in immediately. I show up, he takes me to the manager's office where he and the manager are. They are very pissed off. They both start ripping into me and asking what happened. I explained what happened and they cut me off saying that they know what happened. They saw and heard it on the video, but why in the world did I force Chad 3 to clean it? I really didn't have an answer other than because he made the mess and he did it because he didn't have steak. Then I mentioned that it was my third day and we had no leadership on duty. I was fired.